Good day everyone, I am Michael, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is HIPAA and proposed changes for 2023. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Mark R. Brengelman. Mark holds bachelor's and master's degree in philosophy from Emory University and a Juris Doctorate from University of Kentucky. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Michael, for that lovely introduction. I do appreciate it. Hello this afternoon. We are broadcasting live HIPAA and proposed changes for 2023. This was an interesting topic to really consolidate, get together, and explore for me. We will introduce you to the federal regulatory process called notice and comment rulemaking. We will have an overview of proposed HIPAA privacy rule changes. We'll talk about law enforcement requests, some disclaimers with the goals and the content of this program. I think it's important to be on the same page so we know what our expectations are about what this does and does not cover. So let's talk about an introduction to HIPAA and these proposed changes. What's coming? Well, the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, through its Office of Civil Rights, I keep referring to it as HHS, published proposed amendments to HIPAA to further safeguard the privacy of reproductive health care in 2023. These were published April 17th. After the Supreme Court officially published Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, but the Dobbs decision was rendered over a year ago in June 2022, existing guidance was not enough. So the existing guidance was not enough. The second guidance document clarified that HIPAA does not apply to health information on consumer devices or stored with most consumer apps. So with regard to HIPAA and proposed changes for 2023, in April, as I said, the Health and Human Services proposed an amended HIPAA rule to bolster and implement this informal guidance. Remember, the informal guidance came out like last year. 60-second primer on the federal regulatory process of notice and comment rulemaking. So my emphasis is on state rulemaking with the similarities to what the federal government does. Federal Administrative Procedure Act is something you study in law school under administrative law. Rulemaking is the policy-making process for executive and independent agencies of the federal government. So the field of administrative regulations and rules has its own website. See also a guide to the rulemaking process prepared by the Office of the Federal Register that promulgates and publishes. They have a guide to rulemaking process. So here are the proposed changes. Core general prohibitions is to protect. Again, this is a Spinal Tap comment. To protect protected health, we need to secure security and make confidential things and protect protected health information. Second situation, the relevant investigation or proceeding is in connection with any person seeking, obtaining, or providing reproductive health care that is protected, required, or authorized by federal law, regardless of the state in which health care is provided. So updated general prohibitions include a third situation when the relevant investigation or proceeding is in connection with any person seeking, obtaining, providing reproductive health care that is provided in the state in which the investigation or proceeding is authorized, but that is permitted by the law of that state. New attestation requirements. This is a complete game changer for the requester to have to attest to the covered entity, for the covered entity to determine whether the intent of a request is for a prohibited investigation or proceeding related to health care. So it is a HIPAA breach now, a disclosure based on an attestation the covered entity knows to contain material misrepresentation or may be considered a breach that you have to notify the affected parties of the breach. So there are changes to definitions in three significant ways, three added or amended definitions. First, it amends the word person to make it clear a human being who is born alive. The second is that it amends, quote, public health to make clear that the term addresses population-level activities. A third and brand new definition was reproductive health care, defined as, quote, care, services, or supplies related to reproductive health of an individual. With regard to law enforcement requests, current HIPAA law permits a covered entity to disclose information to law enforcement in response to an administrative request. Notice of privacy practices, two changes coming to the notice of privacy practices to inform individuals about these proposed prohibitions. Other changes to note, and we talked about what that attestation meant. HIPAA changes include clarifying that the facilitation of reproductive health care services is not abuse. What changes were not made? What did Health and Human Services not do? There seemed to be a compromise on proposed HIPAA changes. It does not completely lock down reproductive health care. What's next for covered entities and business associates? Covered entities should prepare to make implementing changes and thus required training and auditing. In addition, covered entities must know state restrictions on the disclosure of reproductive health information. In conclusion, summary for tips to avoid liability and risk with coming HIPAA changes. For the individual healthcare practitioner, for healthcare facilities, know your HIPAA confidentiality and coming changes, or hire someone who does, because your facility is going to be liable for its acts of employees and omissions. Have we covered it all in 58 minutes? We've talked about the federal regulatory process of notice and comment rulemaking, overview of privacy changes, examination of existing guidance, why guidance is not enough, had to change the black and white letter of the law, updated general prohibitions. We talked about state A versus state B, or state A versus federal government-provided health care, attestation requirements, changes to definitions, law enforcement requests, changes to notice of privacy practices, other various changes, alternative changes that were not made. It could have gone even farther, and next steps for therapists, for healthcare practitioners, as covered entities and business associates. We concluded with avoiding risk and liability with best practices to anticipate HIPAA changes for 2023 that are not yet in effect but are absolutely coming. Be on the lookout. I'll have to update this when they do come out. Thank you, Michael. This has been a very good and worthwhile use of our time today for HIPAA proposed changes to 2023. These changes in one form or another are coming, and you are well advised to be prepared to watch out for those and have learned today about what to look for. So thank you all for your time and attention. Michael, back to you to close.
Thank you. Once again, thank you, Mark, for the great presentations. So that does conclude the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.